Yeah, welcome in to the Friday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser, intern Robert here with you on this Friday morning. Hope everybody's off to a wonderful start to their day. We got a lot to get into on the program today. Jared Stillman will be with us at 7 o'clock. We'll get into the Titans and the Jets with him. TD will be dropping by at 8 o'clock. And another edition of Pigskin Pick'em coming up later today as well. Joe Rexrode, good morning. How are you?
Doing okay. It's a victory Friday for the Nolensville Knights. So that was good. Got out of there a little bit nicked up there, the young lad again. But that's how things go. But yeah, good win.
Good win last night for Nolensville. More high school football action coming up tonight, and high school football action tonight without the National Football League stepping in and playing a game on a Friday night. So good to see a little bit of a return to normalcy.
Yeah, now there's still college games. I think actually like Arizona somebody in a pretty good one, which that'd be nice to not have that. But I think that's pretty much here to stay.
I think that probably is as well. Nick Keyser, good morning. How are you?
What's up, brother?
I'm doing well.
Thank you.
Yeah, glad to be here and going into the weekend on a great note with y'all. Looking forward to my trip to Knoxville this weekend.
There you go. You're watching
Nice.
Tennessee and Kent State tomorrow, aren't you?
Yes, I am. And I saw a fake tweet last night that Kristen believed where it was, hey, can the game end early? I was like, well, they are playing Kent State. But no, that could not happen. So there you go.
Was there a tweet that they're going to call it after like the second quarter?
At halftime, if it was a certain score or something like that. I can't remember.
Running clock.
It
was a Richard G. West special.
Of course. That might have been what she saw.
Yeah. Right.
She's not on Twitter very much, so there you go.
It was a running clock tweet. By the way, I think Keyser is. I can already tell you, Keyser's Pigskin Pick'em. It's Vols in a Pick'em line as his lock.
For
this game.
So, I think Tennessee going to be in a struggle with Kent State, but I'll go Vols to win that one. Really had to think about it, but I'll go Vols to win that one.
Absolutely,
should be a classic.
Are you going to? You going to go seek out a horse trough while you're there?
I don't know. I guess I'll send you an update possibly. So
we're still getting photos. Trickling in, as they say.
It's wild.
Of horse troughs.
Pun intended. Definitely pun intended.
Just saying, it's a big deal in the program a couple weeks ago. Report back, Keyser.
Yeah, try to go to a different bathroom every time.
Yeah,
and then you can get a good sense for how many troughs we still have.
It'd be nice to get a sense for that. I know it's a very important issue on Vol Twitter. They're wearing the orange breeches tomorrow too for Tennessee, which a lot of Tennessee fans very upset that they're not going to see orange and white at home until like mid-October.
Will they ever? I mean, is that a thing now? You just don't even ever wear your awesome uniforms?
I would be stunned if they don't wear it for the Alabama game. I mean, I would wear it for Florida and Alabama. That's just me, but particularly the Alabama game. I wonder if there's any consideration given, Joe. You know, they used to do the orange and white for Tennessee and the crimson and white for Alabama. They just wear them all the time, both home jerseys. I wonder if they do that again at some point.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. That's a little bit too.
That's like classy. Straight out of the 1980s. Though. I figured that'd be your thing.
Yeah. But there was dumb stuff in the 80s too. It wasn't perfect, but I would still take that over. These smoky grays of these dumb candy corn, whatever. Don't even get me started.
I kind of like to get you started. One thing that may get me started today, Joe. I think I might be wrong about the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo wins 31-10 last night. I did not have high hopes for the Bills heading into this year. Now, granted, week one, they had to come back against the Arizona Cardinals, who I don't think are very good. But they did come back. They won the game. Last night, a dominant victory for Buffalo. They won 31-10 on the road at Miami. So the Bills moved to 2-0. The Dolphins dropped to 1-1. And the story of the night, much more concerning for the Dolphins than the loss, is the injury to Tua, leaving the game once again with a concussion. Leaves the game in the third quarter. He missed 5 games, I believe, in 2022 because of a concussion. He's had several different concussions that he's dealt with throughout the course of his career. And Joe, just a play where he's running the ball and doesn't get down in time and runs basically directly into the chest of DeMar Hamlin there. smacks the ground when he gets down, and based on the reaction of his body, it just did not look good at all when Tua went down, and some heavy concern from the Miami side of things after the game on Tua and what this could mean for him moving forward. But beyond the loss for the Dolphins last night, tough to see Tua go down again.
Yeah, really tough. And just when the stories keep coming, and obviously it's always well after the fact of guys who have played this game whose brains have been damaged severely. And it's we've talked about it before when he had all this stuff. Is it possible that he might hang it up? I mean, I think it's got to be some kind of consideration and discussion with him. I mean, that play, on its face, like when you watch it in real time, I mean, obviously he was kind of in a tight space and he didn't really have room to slide, and he just, took a hit. Then you look at the close up and, it's just a bad hit. But again, I don't even really blame the defender. It's just bang, bang. That's how easily it can happen. And then, like you said, you get the arm going up, which is a clear sign, like the fist and the arm. And man, I was glad to see him walk off, but I have to wonder if this is, something that really gets into a discussion with him and his family about football.
Yeah, I know, because he's always kind of downplayed that. Like, he's always kind of talked about how, that's never really crossed his mind. And maybe it'll be the same thing here. I have no idea. But this is, I believe, the fourth diagnosed concussion that he's had in the last 5 years. So that's a lot. And then you wonder, like, going back through his playing career, how many has he had when you go back? I mean, all the way through, high school, college, into the NFL. How many has he actually had? And, that conversation, we've seen guys, call it quits in the league maybe a few years before they normally would, just based on the concussion part of this. And, I don't know what Tua is going to do, but certainly, 4 diagnosed concussions in the last 5 years is not good for him.
No, usually it's not quarterbacks. Look, quarterbacks aren't even close to, especially linemen, linebackers, running backs, in terms of constant pounding. So that's, like with the linemen, it doesn't have to be a full diagnosed concussion. It's those subconcussive hits. So usually the quarterback, is relatively much safer than, other than like kickers, probably the kickers, and I would say punters, but not Tennessee Titans punters, but
Titans
kickers,
punters become the most dangerous job in the NFL.
Exactly. But specialists and then quarterbacks. If you do it, and again, if you do it with protecting yourself in mind, and I think Tua, for the most part, does, then, you don't take too many of those hits. But it's just, he has had a couple, he had a couple vicious ones a couple years ago. There was that one in particular that was hard to watch.
Yep.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting. And yeah, you're right. Maybe it's not even a consideration, but I know a lot. That's all I saw last night in the coverage, in the wake of that concussion, was a lot of people talking about that. But it's not their life, it's his life. And then on the football side of things, I like the Bills. I liked them going in, so I feel good about that right now. They also always just seem to just take it to the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Like Tua doesn't play well.
Oh, we should have known
against the Bills, and the Bills play well.
Game started, at 7:00 at night, so we probably should have known that wasn't going to go well for Tua, which it did not, by the way, even before the injury. Tua did not look very good last night.
No, but he did not. Also, the Bills did. The Bills just they I don't, I'm with you. It's cautious. Let's wait and see. But they look like they've got some new guys. They're playing well. Josh Allen is playing well. James Cook running really well.
Yeah.
He's kind of an afterthought. But he looked pretty good last night. But they just always seem to take it to the Dolphins. That's like an old, like how the Patriots used to have. Well, they used to do the same thing to the Dolphins, but other teams in that division. It's like the Bills have this total, they've got the Dolphins in their heads.
Rob in Clarksville says Tannehill to the Dolphins. Book it. Now every time there's a quarterback injury, Ryan Tannehill is going to link to it. Oh, I will say,
Yep.
Tannehill does have some history down there. New coaching staff, all that stuff. But maybe a return trip to Miami for Tannehill for a few weeks.
Yeah, like I don't know if ownership's the same, but I don't know if that's like a thing for him. But if it were to be something like super long term, or Tua was like then I think that you'd have to consider that a possibility, right? I mean, I still absolutely think if Jordan Love had been like the worst case scenario, I think he'd be your Green Bay Packers quarterback right now.
Probably so. I mean, I would assume like if Tua is out for a lengthy period of time, like if you're Tannehill, the idea of throwing to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle has to be somewhat appealing, I would assume.
In that offense, yeah.
Yeah.
I would think so. I would think a lot of quarterbacks like to take a shot at that. So, but again, he's only coming back if it's basically like here's your team for the season. And is that what's going to happen here?
I severely doubt it.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
I kind of do too.
But I severely doubt it. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We're off and running today on Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, which as always are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll look ahead to the Titans and the New York Jets coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5-106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025, our phone number. 615-737-1025. Mo, we've got a few of these texts on the text line, but Mo says, with the Tua injury, Will Levis should take some notes and learn from that. This from Mo on the text line. It would be a good week if you're a quarterback to say, yeah, let's try to get down. Try to get down as much as humanly possible and avoid contact.
Yeah, I almost wonder if like if early in the game Sunday Levis slides, it'll be like one of those, like the big sarcastic cheers,
Oh, I think it will.
Or just maybe like a really enthusiastic cheer.
Oh, maybe
like,
so.
Good job, Will.
Like, hey,
yeah. There's no shortage of questions, comments. I have no idea how much or how little Will Levis is listening to the discourse this week. Hopefully, for his sake, very little.
Yeah.
But even when his own presser,
why you tell us you'll slide, but you won't slide? Why? Why?
He understands it's a talking point out there.
He does. He does. That was a good Kuharski. Good stuff.
Thank you.
It's hit or miss sometimes. That one was a hit.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what that was. I don't know why that was better, but I'll keep working it. Don't worry.
So the Titans taking on the New York Jets on Sunday at Nissan Stadium for the home opener. We'll see what Aaron Rodgers looks like. We'll see what that Jets defense looks like after they got battered in week 1 by the San Francisco 49ers. Joe, we're going to get deep into it, but just your early impressions of this matchup for the Tennessee Titans coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, well, I still believe it's a very good defense. I'm not going to look at what the Niners did to that defense and dismiss what most of the same guys did last year on a weekly consistent basis. The one thing that to me that you look at in that game is absolutely the physicality that San Francisco played with, and the just the ability to run the ball without their starting running back, and they ran the ball, to that extent. So I have to think that's a big part of it. I mean, I think the Titans having any success Sunday is going to be centered around being able to run the football. But that's a very good defense. Quincy Williams, C.J. Mosley, not DeMario. Obviously Sauce Gardner. Yeah. Maybe it's just. Do we know it's not his middle name? I mean, maybe somebody's middle name.
Is there an impending trade?
Oh gosh, I didn't even think about that. Man, there's a possibility. But that's that's a very good group. I think it's a really interesting matchup. Obviously, the other side, it's a totally, as Brian Callahan said, this week, it's like, you play a rookie and you figure you're going to be able to throw some things at that rookie he's never seen or that he's just not quite ready for. And that's the game you play. And the Titans did a lot of things well on defense in that game. Now you're going with a guy who there's not anything you're going to throw at Aaron Rodgers that is going to confuse him or really bother him. You have to be able to pressure him, and you have to know. I mean, he's obviously still a guy who can sling it like nobody, So, and they have one of the best receivers. I think. I think could be one of the best receivers in the NFL. I think that could play out this year with Aaron Rodgers throwing him passes. They also have a really good running back in Breece Hall. But the offensive line has been a question for them. They tried to address it. That is, to me, a huge key of this game is it's up the middle, right? I mean, it's again up the middle. Can they have the same kind of impact? Because even though Caleb Williams wasn't effective, he was able to escape a fair amount and run around at least. And Aaron Rodgers didn't look all that capable of that the other night.
Let's go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Carl. Carl, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. Hey, I hate that Tua got hurt. Like, that was awful. But the comparison to Levis was amazing to me that whole game. I thought his interception on the sideline was just as egregious as Levis's. And then what we've been saying for a year and a half, I guess, is get down. And he was 2 yards past the marker and just went head first into a defender instead of sliding. And I know I heard you say earlier it was hard to slide in that spot, but he could have gotten down. So I just thought the comparison was a little scary, but the narrative is so different.
Yep. Thanks for the call, Carl. I mean, first off, the interception that he threw 3 of them last night, but the one pick six was
close.
Was pretty bad. It was pretty bad.
Yeah. It wasn't going down and flipping it, but it of course brought it right to mind. Right.
Yeah.
The miracle flip. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And I hear you. He could have slid. You're right. It's just like that space closes so fast. I mean, but that's the thing. If you're him, and really, I mean, to me, if you're any quarterback in this league, find a way, because I think he was safely past the sticks, right? At that point, I think so. But again, it's also 31-10, and yeah, no, I mean, you have to find a way. It's just sometimes it just goes so fast, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, and you're taking a hit from the side.
So speaking of Will Levis, Jermaine Johnson of the New York Jets had some interesting comments on Levis when asked what he saw on tape from the Titans quarterback. Here's what Jets pass rusher Jermaine Johnson had to say yesterday.
What are your impressions of Will Levis?
He's a talented athlete and can throw the ball pretty well. But just watching film and just understanding some things about him, especially when he comes out, he's one of those guys that kind of, when things aren't going his way, he kind of can panic a little early, and just understanding how we can get him to that point as a defense and kind of how we can capitalize off of that. So just understanding how we're going to go throughout the week, understanding that what we can do on defense to make sure that we win this game.
So Jermaine Johnson saying Levis, a guy on tape that can panic a little early, and the Jets have a plan to try to get him into that. What do you make of that? That's not necessarily, if you're a Titans fan, what you want to hear about your starting quarterback when being scouted by the opposing defense.
Yeah, well, panic is a term we've used some too. That's been thrown around here in town. So I guess in a way he's seeing some of the same stuff that it appears we saw Sunday too. Is that bulletin board material? Is that it's one of those things where it's like, well, I'm going to show you how calm I can be. I mean,
you've never seen anyone as calm as I'm going to be on Sunday. You just wait.
Yeah. I'm going to go out there, just going to go behind center and go, just like chill.
Well, that's what the other quarterback might do. That might happen.
Well, that's true. That is true. I have an out of body experience. But yeah, no, it's a little glimpse of a little bit of trash talk there. And I mean, it's like even the beginning of the answer is like, he's a talented athlete. It's like, look, if you're a defender on the Jets and they don't like sit there and like watch the whole game, right? They watch cut ups and stuff like that, but still. And of course, if you're the coaches of the Jets, you're finding the passes he threw well and stuff too, right? Yep. But still, I mean, if you get the bulk of that game, then you have to think, oh, we have a chance to really give this guy problems. You have to also be very excited about going from the San Francisco 49ers and what they've got going offensively to this offense.
Yeah, no doubt. And particularly, the offensive line, there's a pretty big difference between what they saw on Monday in San Francisco and what they're going to see. Now, hopefully the Titans take a major step forward this week on that front, but a pretty big difference on that front. Robert says, perfect way to describe Levis. They will blitz him to begin the game in a zero blitz. Well, maybe they might do that. It was perfectly timed by Chicago last week. You're probably going to see them zero blitz at some point in the game. I don't know if it'll be immediately, but again, not especially encouraging to hear that about the quarterback from an opposing team. And you also you really don't hear a defender like come out and just say that all that much in the media either, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. No, I mean, you don't. I mean, I go back. I mean, there were some times I even remember like Byard. Byard would actually be like sort of like a sneaky trash talker before games at times, especially when he was younger. He'd be like, yeah, I can't wait to pick off Tom Brady, or, yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes could,
we need more of it.
Yeah, we do. We do need more of it. So, look, again, it's like, if you're a defender right now and you are looking at what Will Levis just did in the last game, And I mean, to me, that showed a lot of restraint of what he did there. Like, I mean, those guys have got to be talking to themselves like, this is just we are going to eat on Sunday, So, and I don't blame them for feeling that way. And so just add it to the pile of people who all of a sudden that think that the Titans are hopeless at quarterback.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. More of your thoughts on the Titans and the Jets coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Tune in to 1025, 1063 The Game tomorrow for Vanderbilt football. Commodores taking on Georgia State on the road. Pregame beginning at 4:30, kickoff at 6 o'clock. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at thegamenashville.com. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Looking ahead to the Titans and the Jets. Let's go back to our 1025 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in, Scott. Scott, good morning. Thanks for calling in.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call, guys. I heard you talking about the Jermaine Johnson interview, and who can blame? We've been talking about Will Levis a whole lot and what he's done, bonehead plays and all that, but I mean, that comment that he made is more about the offensive line, I think, than Will Levis. Let me explain. If you go back to that first game against Atlanta, he hadn't been hit yet. So you look at him, you look at the guy in that game, and you look at the guy last week. That's a guy that he's right, man. He's got the jitters. He's throwing and, giving up on plays too quick or trying to make the miraculous play. And if you knock him off his spot, then you can do that. But we complain about him being courageous when he's running the ball, but then he's scared in the pocket. So it says more to me about the offensive line. You got a guy that played right tackle pretty much all his life playing left tackle. And as a former offensive lineman, I bowl, and I'm a left-handed bowler. It's as if I've been bowling left-handed all my life, but then I decided to bowl right-handed. It's going to take time for him to learn. I didn't like the idea of them moving Latham to left tackle. Then you got Skoronski, who played tackle all his life, and then they moved him to guard. He's still learning. And then the only solid offensive lineman you have right now is your center. And so I would be afraid in that pocket too. So I think there's more not against Will Levis, but more against that offensive line. I'll hang up and listen to you guys' comments. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for the call, Scott. Appreciate it. That's an interesting, and I like the bowling analogy there too, of bowling left-handed to right-handed.
I do, not as much as I like the Dylan Radins analogy, but
yes,
it's a good analogy too.
The Dylan Radins analogy.
It's a less disgusting analogy.
It is, no doubt about that. I don't know. What do you think of what Scott threw out there about, Levis, the offensive line? Is that leading to him being a little bit more panicky? Have you seen a noticeable decline in his, pocket poise? What do you make of what Scott threw out there?
Well, certainly. I mean, I think Scott has a good point. I mean, look, we were talking about it yesterday. By any measure you want to go, the Titans are, 32nd, 31st in the league in pass protection. One game, but that's how bad it was. So, yeah, the panic in part is because of what's happening. I'm sure that some of what we saw from Levis in the second half had to do with, I mean, to me, I don't know about you, Robby, but watching that game, I started to get the sense like they can't protect him anymore.
Yeah.
So we talked about his poise last year. I thought at times that's one of the things I was most impressed with last year was he saw Tannehill out there running for his life, and he knew he stepped into that same situation. The Titans were trying to do, Tim Kelly was trying to do all the things you try to do, move in the pocket and things like that to try to buy some more time. But I thought that a lot of times last year he stood in there knowing it was bad and was able to deliver the football. I was really impressed with that. It did get a little more happy feety on Sunday. So I think that all goes together, right? Like he's like, if you give the guy or anybody clean pockets, you're probably going to see a lot less possibility of panic.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. Now, it still comes down to when you do give him those clean pockets, can he repeatedly make the throw over and over again? And that's what we still have to find out with Will Levis moving forward here. I mean, we played the Jermaine Johnson cut and him talking about Levis being panicky, and we've gotten several texts to the effect of, well, Levis isn't any good, so Johnson was being nice in his analysis. That's an interesting thought ahead to get to this. But look, a lot is on him this week. Yes, to be accurate with the ball. Yes, to respond from what he did last Sunday. Certainly to not make any more boneheaded plays like we saw in the Chicago game. But I am interested to see, like, mentally, how does he handle all this? And that goes into there's so much mentally that goes into playing quarterback. It is the offensive line. It is having the willingness to stand in there. But it's also, like, knowing that you played as poorly as you played last week, is there a level of bounce back to you? Do you have enough poise to come in, relax, see the game the way you need to see it, and to be able to consistently make the plays at that point? Or is Levis going to be so high-strung on Sunday, Joe, to go out there and try to make up for what he did last week, that he just throws himself into more trouble. Like, is that going to be what ends up happening once the game is live on Sunday? Because that's what you don't want. Like, I have no doubt that Levis is motivated and is ready and determined to go out there and play much better than he played last week. I think there's a line there that I still wonder, can he strike that balance? Can he strike that balance of being, all right, I need to go out there and make sure I kind of atone for what I did last week while not throwing yourself into trouble trying to do it?
I mean, are we sure he's even prepared for this game?
Well,
has he done anything to prepare for the game? I don't know. I mean, he got a guy's name wrong, so maybe he just is just sitting around all week.
Has anyone asked DeMario how he feels?
There you go. Mike from Nashville just asked that. What are DeMario's thoughts on Levis? No, but in all seriousness, no, I think you're exactly right. This is the first time that, to me, that he's really had a week of the world. He's had it. Look, he's had the whole league. I mean, the whole offseason, basically, not the whole league, but what, 85% of the league? And I'm talking media, 90%, basically saying that he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. The Titans are going to be drafted next year, right? Yes. So there's that, but he hasn't had the people replaying a horrible play, asked about the horrible play. Again, all this chatter. This is where being able to have, earmuffs this is a great week for that. But he hasn't had a game like that. Well, like he said, I mean, whether it's true or not, I know some Vols fans are like, here's some Kentucky highlights, Will. But he said, like, I can't remember a time in my career where I basically gave the game to the other team. I mean, I understand, like, he threw picks in that blowout in Knoxville. Did he ever, like, flat out lose a game where his team was ahead with a pick? I mean, I don't remember that, right? Like, this is new territory for him, even in terms of the surrender cobra kind of tells it all. So this is new territory for him. And it's the way he is. Look, this is one of the biggest knocks on him, right? Being too high strung.
Yes.
Those are the real personality, not the Mayo crap, but the real personality questions were, again, I'll go back to, Matt Hasselbeck when he told me when I wrote about it after they drafted Levis, like, does he want it too much, right, type of thing? That's, and then does that get you into trouble as a player? Because it is very much can you just cool the whole system down and be calmer and more poised than everybody else out there when everything's flying around you? So this is a massive test for him. For that.
Even that's a balance too, right? Like, there's a lot about Levis and the passion and how high strung he gets that I really like, that, quite frankly, I think in some ways is important to have as a quarterback, right? Like, you want your quarterback to a certain degree to be emotional and to be kind of like that rah-rah leader. I mean, how many times we talk about Marcus here where it didn't even look like he had a pulse out there, and some teammates talked about that, and it was just a different thing. So, like, there's a lot about that with Levis that I like. There is a balance to it. Like Brady, and it feels like all these conversations ends up somehow going back to Brady. But you can throw Mahomes in there too. I mean, I thought the quarterback series on Netflix really highlighted this with Mahomes in terms of, yeah, he talks a lot. He gets fired up. There's a lot of emotion in his game, but it doesn't go overboard. Like, there's a time where, like, the poise has got to take over, and you got to remain in the moment and remain calm. And I still wonder if Levis can do that. Like, can Levis have enough poise to where either the moment's not too big for him, he's not trying to do too much. You think that's some of what leads to that boneheaded interception, right? Like, he's trying to do way too much in a situation where he didn't need to. And I wonder how correctable that is with him and his personality moving forward.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, like with Mahomes, that's one thing I love about this is you realize how much fun he's having out there, right? Like, he's out there talking and running, but he's also like, hey man, great rush, like he's kind of just he's just playing the game. And I mean, it's a great demeanor. It's also bringing up Mariota is great because it really is. It's kind of like the coaching thing. It's like, if you're Vrabel and you're like how he was like, yes, when he's winning, it's like, that's what I want. I want that. And then, when you start losing or he leaves, it's like, man, we need a place where people can speak their mind and collaborate or whatever, right? So it's like with Mariota, it was always like, can please show some fire, please, like, and then here and there, well, actually, like when he smoked Barry Word and talked trash and was like, "Whoa, did you see
Barry
that?"
Church, yep.
Whereas, oh yeah, Barry Word, holy crap! Sorry, I'm going back to the Kansas City Chiefs. Amazing backfield of Christian Okoye and Barry Word. It had to be the most powerful backfield in NFL history. Yeah, Barry Church. But with him, it was always that, right? It was like, I mean, Vrabel, it was clear that it bothered Vrabel that his quarterback was not as vocal or not, and all that stuff. And now it's like, calm down, man. Please chill a little bit, So, but it's still, it's like all that stuff. There's going to be moments where, where he breaks the pocket and does he slide or not? Does he get a first down? Does he get the team pumped up if he gets one? But it's still like, are you able to deliver the football accurately where it needs to be, and it's just, can you play the game well and way better than you played it the first time around?
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll have more on the Titans and the Jets coming up next. Jared Stillman will be with us at 7 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Join Jared Stillman, Chris Sanders, and Derek Mason at John Bon Jovi's this Sunday from 9:30 to 11:30 for the pregame show. They'll break down the Titans' Week 2 matchup against the Jets, give you the latest updates before the game. Pregame show presented by Parman Tractor and Equipment, Sundeck Nashville, and award-winning Blue Note Juke Joint and Blue Note Crossroads Bourbon. Jared Stillman will be with us. That's 7 o'clock. We'll get into the Titans and Jets matchup with him. Taking your thoughts. In the meantime, 615-737-1025. Our phone number. One texter said, Levis played like a quarterback that's going to throw 17 touchdowns on a team that's going to win 5 games, like Vegas predicted. Darcy on the text line says, Levis showed poise a few times in college, I think, at Florida in 2022, Georgia and Lexington in 21. But really the only NFL time you could say is at Miami last year. I don't think he's ever showed panicking under pressure that drastically until last Sunday, though. This is from Darcy on the text line. That is a good point about the Miami game last year.
Well, no question. And again, I go back and actually watch like the last 2 drives. Early in the game, he had the kind of lucky thing where he threw it up to Hopkins and it might have been OPI or whatever. But like he made throw after throw late in that game. I mean, including the TD to Hopkins, which was a little bit of a cross your body, but it was really, really good, like kind of set up and then boom, zip it to him in there. There was a lot of good stuff on the tape of that. I would also argue that he showed a lot of poise in his second start, which was at Pittsburgh. I mean, at Pittsburgh in prime time, it wasn't perfect, and obviously at the end, he didn't make the throw, but I thought he really handled that well and stood in there and made some big time throws in that game. So, again, it's like I feel like some of the conversation this week is like we just saw him for the first time. We didn't. There's a reason that I think around here there was more optimism in general about him, which, hey, but right now looks like maybe Vegas knows, or the NFL, NFL media knows, but we always say Vegas knows. There was more optimism, but that was based on what we saw, right? It wasn't just, I just really hope Will Levis is good. I really like Parfum de Mayonnaise.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there was football we saw from him last year that indicated he could be good. And I think it's easy to forget that in a week like this. And I totally get that. It's a very disappointing to go through the full off season and all the stuff and all the talk and see that. But that other stuff did happen.
It did. And can you get back to – I'm not even going to say back to it because the expectation is to be better. The expectation is to be better than he was a year ago, to build on that with Brian Callahan in the offense, the new system, all those things. You have better weapons than you had a year ago. So I'm not saying that he's got to go out there and throw for 350 yards on Sunday or this whole thing's just coming down at the seams here. But, like, you need to see some progress with this offense. It's not just a Sunday thing. Like, you go back to the only 2 things, if you want to take anything away from training camp, they played against the Seattle Seahawks starters in the joint practices, and it did not go well. They played against the Chicago Bears starters, obviously, in the regular season game, and it did not go well. So I know they got in there in the preseason, and they scored a lot of points, and they moved the ball and did all those things against the Niners backups and against New Orleans backups. But so far, the body of work that we've seen from this starting offense against other quality NFL starters would lead you to believe it's not a very good offense. So how quickly can that change? Will it change? Or from an offensive line standpoint, from a quarterback standpoint, is this just what they are, more or less, moving forward? Because that, to me, would be incredibly disappointing.
It would be, and it's possible. Also, like, is this just what they are? When that question is asked after the first week of the NFL season, I bet you it's answered eventually in the negative way more than it is in the positive, right?
Probably so. But I'm not even talking like disaster level of Sunday, but like what's the upside, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Like, is this what they are in terms of their bottom third in the league?
Yeah. It's a good question. Does Hopkins coming back fully, how much difference does that make? The offensive line, the offensive line, you have to start with that. I mean, I guess you start with them and Levis, but like Levis is going to have a real hard time being way better than that and having great weeks and instilling confidence if the offensive line is going to be the worst pass protecting offensive line in the NFL yet again. I don't think they will be, but that's what they are right now. They're one game. It's just more of the same with different people. So that is a huge question. But yeah, Hopkins, I do, again, like I think the skill on this team, they did a lot to improve it. So that should matter. And also, like, this is definitely a big test of Brian Callahan and Nick Holtz and what they can do to give Levis answers and to whatever their shortcomings are. As I think Callahan said this week, it's like about a month in, you kind of have a feel, right? So,
yeah.
I mean, if this is what it's going to be up front, then you've got to adjust as a play caller and a play designer too, the whole thing. I mean, right now I can't sit here and say, no, they'll be top half of the league. There's just too much talent on paper for them not to be. But I would be very surprised if they don't at least get better and get middling,
Yeah.
They're too good on paper, I think, to not be middling.
Alex from Montreal says, no, there's a lot of new pieces and it takes time. In the meantime, just use Pollard and Spears more. Look, obviously, the way that San Francisco ran the ball on the Jets on Monday Night Football, the Titans are going to try to run the football this week. Now, I don't think it's quite as simple as just lining up, turning around, handing the ball off, and going. Like you're going to have there has to be, Joe, to me, some threat of a passing game for you to be able to run the ball as effectively as San Francisco did. Or you just have to be otherworldly at blocking like San Francisco is really with their entire team. So, look, San Francisco, you can make an argument, them and Baltimore have been top 2-3 teams that run the football over the last 3-4 years. It's just part of it's their scheme, part of it's their personnel. They're just really good at it. So are the Titans that? I don't know. Like, the Titans have been that at times under Derrick Henry, but are they that now? I don't know. And one thing that gets lost in the Levis discussion is they ran the ball really well last week for a half until they didn't. So, like, how effective can they be running the football against this Jets team on Sunday when you know that beyond the obvious of trying to take advantage of some Levis mistakes, the message for the Jets defense heading into the game is going to be, hey, let's not get gashed again in the running game with this passing attack that the Titans have.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so you got to have balance, and maybe you have to pass to run. I mean, I think you got to get the ball out quickly, and I mean, I feel like there's easy access stuff to Boyd. I mean, obviously Sauce Gardner is a great player, and so it'll be interesting to see how he's deployed and all that stuff. And again, if Hopkins is available fully, Hopkins, made it clear like it's not a tear, but again, a sprain is a partial tear. It's just a slighter tear. But regardless, is he much more of a factor? The Titans are built to where when they have other starters, like they should have someone with a good matchup, right, at receiver.
You would think.
Use the tight ends. I mean, to me, it's like get the ball out quickly and don't put Levis in the spot of hoping that he can set up with a deep drop. Obviously, you want play action to work, but can you run the ball? I mean, I'm with you. The Jets have got to be totally focused on that. Like the only thing they did good offensively with those 2 drives in the first half against the Bears, they ran it down their throat. We got absolutely gashed. That's not happening this week. They got the guys on that defense, to shut down the run. Look at what they did. Look at their numbers last year and what they did consistently. So I agree. You have to have balance. If you're the Titans, you have to keep them off balance with your play calling and your game plan.
Jared Stillman will be with us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans and the Jets coming up on Sunday at Nissan Stadium. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
He has the fattest feet I have ever seen. I mean, again, they must be size 25 quadruple wide.
You don't know Nate Davis from a jar of Vicks.
Oh, it is that time of the week. Time to welcome in our good friend Jared Stillman to the program. Joins us every Friday morning at 7 o'clock. Stilly, good morning. How are we doing?
I am super. How are you guys?
We are super as well. Appreciate
By the
you
way,
taking time to be with us.
Who watched Tua last night?
I was gonna start there. I mean, so far through the NFL season, we have Tua stinking up the joint in a primetime game, which I guess we should have known heading into last night.
300 and a game, 300 and a win on a noon CBS kickoff that nobody watched. You know,
yes,
the Spiro Diaz
time of
win
day.
at Jacksonville. You know, he is the champion of the Spiro Diaz Adam Archuleta game. Like the way that Adam Archuleta feels about Tua and the way that, say, like Tony Romo probably feels about it's probably night and day, because the second Tua plays in a primetime game, I think the number was something like 2-8 over the last 2 years. We'll make it 2-9. Now, in all seriousness, that concussion that he suffered at the end of the game is rather concerning, just from a hope he's okay standpoint. But he stinks. And I keep telling people are like, but Jared, look at the stats. I'm like, I don't care. Whenever he plays against a good team with a good quarterback, he stinks. And last night he.
I was trying to give you even more flowers because I was going
give me
Tua.
the Sammy D.
I was giving you Sammy D.
Yeah,
good. The quarterback whisperer for 1 week.
I put it up on Twitter. I haven't looked at it because I felt right to sleep after I did it. But I put up a poll that was Tua or Sammy D on Twitter last night. I actually wonder how it's doing. Let's see. Sam Darnold right now, 67% of the vote.
Oh my God.
That's exciting. Yeah, we don't need to get into a Tua argument. I was at my kid's high school game. I did see, terrible pick and also the concussion. But I will ask you, Jared, is the season opener against Trevor Lawrence and the Jags, is that not a big game just because it's played at noon? No big games happen during the daytime? Is that the suggestion here? Because I think that was a pretty big game against a pretty good quarterback. I mean, he's another guy who got paid like Tua, and he threw for 368 and won the game.
You think a non-divisional game,
the season opener against Jacksonville? Yeah, I think that's a big game.
Is a big, quote-unquote, big game.
Yes,
did you watch it,
Jared?
Did you watch it?
I flipped around. I used my Sunday ticket very well, so I did watch some of it. Yeah, he was excellent in that
that's
game.
Code for no. Robbie, did you watch it?
No, that's not true.
I did not watch it, no.
Of course you didn't watch it. Nobody watched it. That's what makes
nobody
Tua
watched
great in those games. The second everybody watched
daytime games can never be good per Jared.
The noon kickoff window.
Put that in the tape vault.
Every now and then there's a noon kickoff because like the 3:30 Cowboy game is locked in stone because they're the Cowboys, and Sunday night football, whatever. It's a game that we wish they would flex out of noon. Like maybe once a season, there's a noon game that's like, oh my God, that's a great game at noon on CBS.
There's a good
and
game.
It ain't never Tua's game.
Once a season.
Again, we're talking about the Titan announcers. I remember when I was a kid, and it felt like the Titans got Solomon Wilcots and Ian Eagle every single week. Now, Ian has made his way up.
Yes.
Solomon has, and I actually really like Solomon a lot, but Solomon has made his way out. But we used to call him the F crew. And that's Tua thrives in the F crew games.
So, Jared, on the Levis front, one of my concerns with him.
He does not thrive on the F crew games.
Well, not the other day. One of my concerns on his front is he too high strung? Does he have the poise that is required at times to play that position at a high level? Now, I know, we've talked about Levis all week, but do you think that's something that can even be coached out of you at some point? Like, how do you view the poise part of this and how high strung he seems to be on the field and how that affects his actual play that we see on Sundays?
Well, you said, can it be coached out of you? And I mean, to me, it's not about whether or not it could be coached out of me. It's whether or not it could be coached out of him. And right now they can't even coach him to slide. So if we're going to talk about like what he can be coached on or what he can't be coached on, I mean, right now it's not a good sign. Here's what I will say about Levis. And I go back to last year. And this is why I'm so disappointed about this year, because I mean, I don't think that the big jump comes between games 17 and 18. I think the big jump comes between year 1 and year 2. The big mental jump of knowing what the game is about and knowing what it takes. But I go back to last year against Pittsburgh. He looked great, in the first half, and he was really in a rhythm. And then when Pittsburgh got the lead, then all of a sudden he started throwing stupid passes. He misses Kyle Phillips, although TD said he was coached to throw it to Burks on that fade pass. But then he throws the ball to DeAndre, and DeAndre has to make a great play to break up what would have been an interception. He then throws the ball into the end zone. The Steeler DB drops it. Then he throws the next ball into the end zone and gets intercepted. The next week at Tampa Bay, he started to do the same thing in the fourth quarter, and Tim Kelly immediately took the ball out of his hands, recognizing what he was doing, and started calling bubble screens for Kyle Phillips, because you could tell Tim Kelly was like, I'm not this guy. I can't not put the ball in his hands, even though we're down by 2 scores, because he's going to throw the ball right to the other team. Well, he did the same thing, different coaching staff, year 2, and I think he kind of did the same thing, against Chicago, which was when the game got serious, your point about being high strung, he felt like, I got to go do something, and it just takes over. And then it's like he comes to the sideline, and the coach says he explains everything perfectly, which makes me think he's kind of like the water boy, when the play happens and the water boy, just visualizes, and the water boy goes crazy. I think that might be what Levis happens. Levis is up there at the line of scrimmage, and all of a sudden somebody's head turns and they say, needle dick, and he takes the ball and, just goes crazy. Unfortunately, it's probably good to go crazy on defense, maybe not good to go crazy at quarterback.
Wait, what'd you just say? What word did you just say?
You can't say that on the radio, can you?
What the hell is happening to our program? Good God, we have to erase this whole segment now. I'm like, am I hearing this correctly? You just had a total Levis meltdown. All you had to do was take the sack, and you just decided to go miracle flip. Holy cow. I don't even know where to go from there. Robbie, you asked him a question. I don't even know what to say right now.
Well, let's go Skarotsky then, because you've talked. We joke about the feet. I am heavily concerned with him. The pass blocking the other day was so bad. It was so bad. And if you wanted to last year, we've talked about this week. You could make every excuse for him last year that you wanted to, with Andre Dillard being to his left, Aaron Brewer to being to his right. He had the appendectomy. He put on the weight in the offseason. And for him to get beat as badly as he did on Sunday, especially concerning. And, Jared, I'll be honest with you, the idea of him trying to block Quinnen Williams –
second. I think that one of the issues might be the fact that he never actually played guard in college. And I'm not saying that he needs to learn how to play guard, but that the teams never got to see what that would look like. And so there was just an assumption, because he was a good tackle in college, that he would be a good guard in the pros. And I think maybe he does, that transition wasn't as seamless as everybody thought it would be. And I'm not sure, physically, I'm not sure that he can play that position. And because I don't think he can move his feet, and all you got to do is get him turned, and then you can go right by him. And teams know that. And there's no way for an offensive lineman, with certain positions, you can hide certain things. You can't really hide an offensive lineman who can't pass block, because at some point in a game, 5 guys out of the pattern, you're going to have to, all of those things, you're going to have to do at some point. And he's going to have to bow up and block Quinnen Williams. And it's just a reality. And then if it's not Quinnen Williams this week, it'll be Robby, who's that big fat guy for the Packers that's really good?
Kenny Clark.
It'll be him. And so it's it will be a consistent thing, because everybody's got good players in the NFL. And I'm really, really concerned that Peter physically cannot play the position at the level that is required to play it, period, much less at the level that is required to play it when you're picked 11th overall.
What is your obsession with body parts?
Well, I mean, it matters in football. When we're talking about whether or not somebody can play a position, the way their feet move does matter. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, no, the way the feet move, yes. The actual.
I'll never forget
Girth of the feet. I have never heard that discussed before. You brought that to the football discussion, I must say.
Well, I mean,
the fatness of the feet.
So we used to do the Floyd Reese Draft Academy back in the day. And it was a very popular segment where I would just hush and let Floyd talk for 30 minutes about whatever topic it was we went over on drafting. It's kind of like a how-to about being a GM and drafting or whatever. And he was talking at one point about defensive linemen and evaluating their body types. And he was talking about like the difference between a defensive lineman who has a butt like Jarrell Casey or a defensive lineman who has a butt like Daquan Jones. And I was giggling through that or whatever, but I mean, it's like it's serious stuff now. And then he was talking about corners and the corners that are duck-footed versus the corners that aren't. And I was like, what's duck-footed? And he looks right down at me and goes, like you. And my feet are just naturally kind of pointed outward. He's like, that's duck-footed. He said a duck-footed corner can't get back as fast as a corner whose feet go right in front of him. I was like, huh. So that stuff does matter. And I think with Skoronski, I mean, look, the fat feet thing's kind of more of a joke than it is anything else because at training camp, he's got massive feet. Which again, people that big usually do have big feet.
Have you compared his feet to Devondre Sweat's feet? Like I haven't. Have you?
Like Shaquille O'Neal. But anywho, my whole point with Skoronski and his feet is he doesn't move them very quickly, and that's a problem. They're stuck in cement.
Well, it's
but I don't think it's dangerous, as Kaharski said, to say that Skoronski has thick feet.
He did say
Is
that.
that what he said?
Dangerous.
I think he said it's dangerous to condemn him as a bust at this point in his career, right? Wasn't that what he was saying?
I also don't think that's dangerous.
I don't think it's dangerous either. I mean, we're talking about freaking sports and body parts and, testing the limits of, what's able to be said publicly. I mean, it's not like life or death.
615-737-1025. Take your reaction to Stilly. Jared, thanks for being with us. We'll be listening at 2:00.
Yeah, thanks a bunch.
Boys
Preach.
talked in.
What'd he say?
I have no idea. Hopefully not a bad word. God, Jared.
We'll have more on Robby and Rexrode coming up next. 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 102.5, 106.3 The Game tomorrow at 11 a.m. for our college football game of the week. Alabama taking on Wisconsin, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants. Take your tailgate to Twin Peaks, home of 29-degree drafts and wall-to-wall sports. I'll be there for that one, watching Alabama and Wisconsin. We'll see how Jalen Milroe and company handle going on the road. Nice Big Ten test for them coming up tomorrow against the Wisconsin team that, quite frankly, has not looked very good so far. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It should be an amazing atmosphere up there. That's one of the great places in this country for tailgating, and I think great atmosphere. I mean, I think that's one of the best atmospheres in college football when it gets going. Early game, that's one of those places where the later the day gets, the route. It's not like, I guess it's not like all that different from a lot of places, but it gets rowdier later. But hopefully, they'll be ready to rock. I don't know, man. Bama was vulnerable against South Florida, was really in a battle until the very end with a deceiving final score. So I'm not ruling out the Badgers from making that a game.
Should I participate in the jump around tradition that they have there, or should I just watch?
No, hold on to your butt. I've been there a few times in the press box. When they do that, it is absolutely terrifying. That freaking press box sways back and forth. I'm sitting there with half a brat crammed in my mouth, and I'm like, whoa. I mean, it's at my safe word. It's like it's actually terrifying. It really is.
Well, that's good. Hopefully the stadium remains intact while I'm there tomorrow.
It's probably fine in the stadium, but like the press box is it's almost like it's a little it's like elevated or
suspended.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Thank you. So maybe that's like it's way worse, way scarier there than just in the actual stadium. I'm sure that's true. So yeah, go ahead, jump around, man.
Going to be really interested to see.
Hello, fellow kids.
Hello, children. Going to be interesting to see how Quinnen Williams. I would assume he's going to be lined up against Peter Skoronski a fair amount in this game. Interested to see what that matchup looks like. Can Skoronski hold his own? Is it going to be another disaster in terms of the pass blocking? We went through some of the numbers yesterday. I think he allowed 8 pressures in that game, according to Next Gen Stats. And it was like 3 or 4 quick pressures, which is not good. Not obviously what you want to see. And it doesn't get any easier, Joe, with Quinnen Williams coming in, who, as I pointed out on Twitter yesterday, responsible for the single greatest sporting interview of all time in the draft here in Nashville when he sneezed, blessed, and thanked himself all at one time. One of the greatest things ever.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. And that is one of the all-time greats. Now he's a heck of a player. I mean, it is I mean, really, it's one of the best interior guys that they'll see this year. He's a really good player. So no, and this is where, like, with Skoronski, you could absolutely do a low light cut up, and maybe someone has out there of some pass protection stuff from last week. That's like, whoa, man. You could also do, it's like your guy Malik Willis when he came out of Liberty. There were highlight and low light stuff on him that were both like stunning. Skoronski run blocking. He had some great reps last week. I mean, when he can square someone up, I mean, that's where he's very powerful. I mean, that's where the more the Titans can have any kind of success doing that, the more they have a chance to slow down that pass rush some. But when it comes down to it, I feel like, he's going to probably have to have a lot of help with Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams is he's an elite player. He's an auto double guy anyway, right? And that's the thing. The Titans have, I think, potentially have 2 auto double guys inside, which is where, that's the superpower potentially of that defense. But yeah, he is an auto double guy, of course. But still, like, he can rip through those and make plays.
Deagle in the YouTube chat, is JC an elite athlete, or are both him and Skoronski on the slower side? I wonder if Skoronski and JC would do better on opposite sides. This is from Deagle. What do you make of that?
Wait, I'm sorry. Like flip flop them? Is that what?
Yeah,
someone
said put them on the other
side.
Yeah.
JC Latham is he's a outstanding athlete. No, I mean, again, like, we're talking relative to the position,
right?
I mean, Skoronski, yeah, look, I can't disagree with Jared again. Like, we make fun of the fat feet thing. I mean, it is funny. I've just never heard that said, but I don't disagree with slow footed. He looks slow footed at times in, in pass pro and just, but I think the question is, again, is it because he's incapable physically and he just is not nearly, I mean, this guy was an elite tackle in the Big Ten going against NFL pass rushers at Northwestern. So I don't really buy the whole moving to guard thing. I mean, to me, that takes away some of the stuff that he's bad at, right? But is he incapable, or is this a technique thing where he just completely lost his head last week and didn't play with the technique that Bill Callahan has been trying to instill? Titans fans better hope that's the second, that it's answer B, and that that he can find that. Because if it's just that he's incapable, well, it's just going to be a tough season, and it's going to be a tough road for him.
Well, quite frankly, like when Bill Callahan was hired, everybody was going to focus in on the tackle positions, and I get why. But one of the first thoughts I have was, man, that's great for Skoronski, because you got a demonstrated track record here of this guy being one of, if not the best offensive line coaches in football. And whatever potential is there for Skoronski, you would think Callahan would be the guy that fully brings it out of him. Again, it's one game. I'm not totally giving up on the guy, but not a very encouraging start for Skoronski under Bill Callahan.
Yeah, it's a big week. Like I said, Sunday to me is Levis has to play well, but everybody the quarterback. I'm looking at that left side, in particular him on Sunday, over and over again, because it is a critical week for him to show that week one was an aberration and he got away from some things, and it's still in there for him. And it's a huge part of, we've talked all preseason about, man, that right side, are they going to figure that out? Can they be okay? Because the left side is probably going to be pretty good, right? That left side, left tackle to center, man, there's a lot of potential there. And then the second half last week happened.
Yep, no doubt about it. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Coming up next, a discussion on the Levis front that I truly wonder, do people actually care about? We'll get into that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Hey, it's Robby Stanley, and I'm ready for more NFL. And FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, is continuing its special offer to keep us watching more. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com/Rob to download America's #1 sportsbook. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/Rob. You're going to want to check this deal out. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Welcome back in. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We'll have the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up at 7:45. TD will be with us at 8 to break down the Titans matchup against the Jets. Looking forward to that. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. So, Joe, we talked to Charles Robinson yesterday and brought up the Michael Lombardi comments on the GM Shuffle podcast, essentially saying that going back to the draft, Vrabel lost a power struggle with Carthon over Levis, and ultimately part of the reason he's now not the head coach of the Tennessee Titans is that. Now, you've talked about the reporting that you and Diana Rossini did in the aftermath of that. Question to ask, and I thought about this yesterday as we were talking about it. Like, does it really matter anymore? And you heard Charles bring it up. Like, he's the guy now, regardless of how he got here. He is the guy. Now, it does matter from the standpoint of, like, if this was Carthon's guy all along and Carthon was beating the drum for Will Levis and he ends up not being very good, well, ultimately, it's going to be Rand Carthon that has to answer for that. But do we care about the Carthon-Vrabel difference of opinion, allegedly, over Will Levis?
Yeah. Well, I think what there's maybe more care or more. This goes back to all the times of who's got final say, right? Why do we ask that? Some of it is when there's an amazing pick like Brock Purdy with the Niners as Mr. Irrelevant, right? It's like, man, whose idea was that? Let's give them credit, And again, sometimes with that, it's like your scouting staff, whatever, or whatever, whoever. Somebody was like, I just love that. I stood on the table for that guy. Like, we've talked about how Titans fans should always thank Blake Bedingfield because he stood on the table, both telling John Robinson and Mike Mularkey, and he got Mularkey on his side eventually. We got to draft this kid, Derrick Henry. And they had just, traded for DeMarco Murray and he won. And that's stuff like that is, first of all, those are great stories, right? But also, if something goes bad, whose freaking fault is it, right? So that's why final say matters. And, a lot of teams don't like to. That's why a lot of them are like, no, we all just make decisions together. But this whole thing does bring up, Robby, and it came up again yesterday, and I talked with both of them, if you go back to last year, and Charles said it again yesterday, that's why it came up again, the fact he was told by a source that it was, quote, ownership driven. The source believed it was ownership driven, right? And TD said last year, and I talked to both of them yesterday, he had sources tell him that's not true. And, here, this is, I've got a rant coming on this too. Okay. Not on that aspect of it, but just on the whole, this is the problem with anonymous sources, but I trust both of those guys completely. I mean, Charles had a good source or sources in the Titans building. We know this. Charles has sources all over the league. He's been an impeccable reporter for like decades. TD would never be sloppy. TD has great sources with the Titans, does a great job covering the Titans. And frankly, as someone who was a beat writer for a long time, I tend to I guess I lean toward the local person who's always there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Covering a beat, because I've been there on a beat when someone parachutes in nationally and it's like maybe they had something, or maybe something was a little bit off, whatever. But it's not like the problem is someone was told something by somebody, someone was told something by somebody else. The people aren't named. There's no accountability publicly for them. And I think we can say this about the Levis pick. One, I mean, Amy, they would never have made this pick without Amy's approval, right?
For sure.
I mean, it's not like there's no way they're doing this behind her back or whatever. Whether it was like she was standing at the table or just was like, oh, I like that idea. I don't know that it matters too much. And I also don't think we will see at any point anyone saying this was Vrabel driven. I'm not saying that I think that Vrabel was like, no, hell no. And maybe the call, I think TD made a point about the call, which is like, Vrabel, it's not like Vrabel with other prospects like, hey, buddy, I can't wait to see you. Yay. You know what I mean? It's kind of how Vrabel is with people. But I don't think anyone's going to report at any point that Vrabel was if you do see someone report that at some point, I mean, that to me is spin, because it's like, can we just blame everything on the guy who's gone, who everybody wants to think is an idiot now? So I don't think it really matters that much. Bottom line is, it might be a mistake. I know this is the week where we all look at it like, oh my God, what a mistake. You know, it was a second round pick, could have been a heck of a value pick, and we still don't know how it's going to turn out. But it comes up again this week, and I just think these things happen all the time where different parts of different sources in a team, different parts of a team tell someone one thing, someone else tells them something different. It might just be that those people interpreted something different, or they're hearing what people said. Is there direct knowledge of what Amy said in this? Like, I don't know.
Ed on the text line says, if the Titans play well and win, what will you guys talk about next week on the program? I mean, it has been a lot of fodder this week.
Yeah,
there's been a lot of fodder.
There's a suggestion that we only like to talk when things are bad. Like we only enjoy when things are bad.
Believe you me, I am dying to talk about some good looking offensive football for the Tennessee Titans. It's been far too long since we've been able to talk about some good looking offensive football for the Tennessee Titans on a consistent basis. I'm dying to get there. I hope we do at some point this year.
Look, I love, and it's happened here. Like it happened in the 21. I love the week 2 complete reversal from what we thought from week 1 type thing. You know, actually it happened in 2019 too, the other way. The Titans looked like a freaking wagon at Cleveland, and then they came plummeting back to earth pretty quickly. Was week 2 at Jacksonville? No, I don't think so. It might have been like week 3. That awful Jacksonville game. Remember where Jamil Douglas, I think, at guard. Oh.
That was week 3, yeah. That was a Thursday night, week 3, where Marcus Mariota is probably still having bad dreams about Calais Campbell.
Right, exactly, Calais Campbell. Yeah. So no, I'm all the way here for
week 2 was Indy that year. I believe week 2 was Indy that year, and that was the day that they set the freaking field on fire with the pyrotechnics, which could have been a sign of things to come for the offense the next few weeks.
And it was a sign of things to come for that game because they botched it, and yeah, that's right. So no, I am all the way here for Levis. 25 for 30, 270, 2 touchdowns, no picks, sliding all day. You know, I mean, believe me, that would be the most fun we could possibly have next week. But it might not happen.
It may not.
So whatever happens, we'll talk about it.
Absolutely. Jared from Spring Hill says, I can't wait for the perfect storm. Malik takes on Nashville. Can't wait to see what happens if the Titans lose and whose heads will roll. This is from Jared from Spring Hill. Got to get through the Jets game first, but the Malik Willis, Will Levis game could potentially be looming around the corner after that.
Dennis says, would you trade Levis for Purdy right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure would.
Yeah. I mean, I know that Purdy's got a great situation, but Purdy, watch Purdy play. He's pretty good, man. He's pretty good. He moves around really well, extends plays. Yeah. So,
I mean, he's pretty accurate with the ball. Now, I would agree with those. Like, does Purdy have the arm talent that Will Levis has? Probably not. Like, now he's got pretty good. I mean, he throws the ball well, but I don't think he's got the arm that Will Levis has. But consistently putting the football where the football needs to be placed, that's the name of the game in the NFL, baby. And I'll take that.
I know it's a bad time to bring up the thing I always bring up because he was bad last week, but Kirk Cousins does not have nearly the talent of Will Levis, or just list on and on and on. He gets the ball out fast and accurately, and he's made how much money in this league. And I understand he hasn't, he has one playoff win and all that stuff, but there's nothing more important. So Brock Purdy, I think I'd put him in that realm with those guys. I put Tannehill in that realm. I put Goff in that realm. Give them good conditions. They'll deliver the ball. You'll take that. We don't know that Levis can do it at that level at all.
Jake from Greenbrier says, I'm here for the scenario where the Titans play Willis and Tannehill back-to-back weeks. Go Packers and Dolphins. Here's Malik Willis. Here's Ryan Tannehill because Tua's hurt. Bring him in.
It's truly insane, too. Like, seriously, think about that. Like, it's truly insane how we were talking about that for the week before, and that's okay, that's out. Now it's the very next week it could happen again. I mean, I don't think it will. You know, I think Tua is probably gonna stick with it, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's got paid a ton of money, so my guess is he's probably gonna try to stick with it.
Yeah, but I don't know. At some point, maybe the Ryan Tannehill thing will emerge. Again, Tannehill, I mean, I think absolutely if the Jordan Love thing was the season, I think right now he would be up there with Matt LaFleur. People were incorrectly saying they were together here, by the way. They were not here together. They just missed each other. But he'd be up there right now repping. He'd be your guy. And frankly, at least for this weekend, you would have a better experience.
There's no doubt. Although I'm all in on QB1, Malik Willis. I've talked myself into it. They're winning.
I'm excited for the game, man. I will be streaming that one. I'm excited for it.
615-737-1025, our phone number. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment. Let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
What's up? This is Scott Stapp from Creed, and you're listening to Robby and Rexrode on 102.5 The Game. Okay. Did I say Rexrode right?
Rexrode.
Rexrode. Okay, let me do that
No
again.
worries.
What's up? This is Scott Stapp from Creed, and you're listening to Robby and Rexrode on 102.5 The Game.
It is that time of the day, time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Joe Rexrode's rant of the day. Joseph, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I've had a version of this rant before, which I've said before. I think I've had some rants that maybe I've done 3 times. So, but I've probably told some version of the same story I'm about to tell too. But I think it's a good time to bring it back. And maybe this should be like an annual thing, like my high school football message that Karski crapped on.
What about the Yankees announcer?
So here, let me just boil it down to you. I hate anonymous sources. I hate them. Okay. Do I use them? Yeah, I've used them plenty. Do I still hate them? Yes. If I could sign up right now in my career, the rest of my career, for never using anonymous sources again, even understanding how it would limit some reporting opportunities. I mean, as long as I can stay employed, yeah, and it's not like I use them a ton, but sometimes, like again, last year, the whole stuff happened and I chipped in with Diana Rossini, and that's all sourced, of course. I'm inspired to say this during the week. I'm reminded of, like the Will Levis thing, right? Like I just said, Charles Robinson said in our show, the source told him they believed the pick was, quote, owner driven. TD said last year he had sources who disputed that. Again, I trust both of them completely. They're pros. They don't use shoddy sources, but anonymous sources, there's not accountability for the source. With the reporter, sure, but things like this happen. And I'll go to a Michigan State coaching search from about 18 years ago. I was lied to and wrote off lies twice during the search. One about a candidate who was not a serious candidate, as expressed to me by a source a very high level in that search. And one saying the search wasn't over when it in fact was. And I know this source knew it was. One of those people I basically never talked to again. But the other, that was not an option. So that involved all kinds of, there was a lot of back and forth after that. And frankly, right now, we would still disagree on how it all went down and who knew what when, it's just, but that's how it goes sometimes. And I learned a lesson about just how careful you have to be. And you're in a very competitive situation, but it can really burn you. My paper then, the Lansing State Journal, actually went a few years with a no anonymous sources policy for its reporters. And that limited me, of course, but I still appreciate it. And what happened was there were still times when I got news that it just being more aggressive with just, why can't you put your name on this?
Right.
Whereas without the policy in place, absolutely it's just like, okay, we'll go source said, and then that's that. And so if you're a reader out there and it's you're taking all this in and you care about your team, your team's a league or whatever, I mean, how skeptical are you about source said? There's how do you know what's reliable and what isn't? You need to know, of course, the reporter in question, right? But source, but there's still, I mean, anybody can be had, okay, or be a little bit lied to, or I mean, it's just when there's no real accountability publicly for the source. This is putting the reporter in the vulnerable position, and just you just don't want, like, losing trust with readers is the number one thing you don't want to do. I mean, sources have to be used. I understand it. Of course they do. But they should be used to deliver news items. Like, they should not be used to be quoted and rip other people, right? And go off on people, which happens too much. And look, let me raise my hand. I'm now a hypocrite because David Ubben and I did this high school recruiting confidential and talked to all these high school football coaches in the state of Tennessee. And one of them told me just absolutely laid into Jeremy Pruitt. And look, a lot of people felt that way, but it was still an example of an anonymous source being used to go off on someone as opposed to just using sources to, deliver news. So again, I've been part of all this stuff. I just hate it. And I hate seeing young reporters try to say source this, source that. And then it's not news, it's just like heard this or blah, blah, blah after the fact. It just, I think there's just like young reporters feel like, that's just a thing that validates you, or like you got to use sources. You got to be able to quote anonymous sources. And really, it should be like you use this when absolutely necessary and only when absolutely necessary. Sometimes it is. But if it's not, and there's not news to deliver, then try to avoid it. So I hate it. And I would imagine that a lot of people who digest, sports media do as well. And so we agree.
Well, we do. And just to add to that, it's kind of a double-edged sword to some degree, because I'm totally with you. Like when you have anonymous sources that are feeding you whatever, whether it's information on a football team or whatever, like you said, there's no public accountability for them. So like when you attach your name to something and you're lying, then you know that you've got to answer for that to the general public. When there's no accountability to it and you don't have your name to it, then it's much easier. I think there's probably much more lying that goes on that way. Now, having said that, there are some really good stories that have been done out there in all walks of life, but certainly in sports, where anonymous sources were crucial, right? Like that, like you wouldn't have gotten information without the ability to have anonymous sources. So it kind of is a double-edged sword that way. And I do think too many, and this is, I think, especially prevalent in sports now, there are too many people like willing to take shots at other people with anonymous sources. Like we've talked about this before as it relates to the Titans, right? Like let's say, or even, CJ Stroud with the S2 stuff. There were some anonymous sources on some of that stuff. And it's like, okay, well, who's saying this and what's the motive behind it, right? Like, is it a rival GM? Is it an opposing head coach? Like, what's the motive behind whatever the words are being said about this team, about this player? And from anonymous sources, I think you've got to have that in the back of your mind of, all right, somebody clearly has an axe to grind here. Why and what is it?
No, that's a great point. The Stroud thing is a great example of media being basically weaponized, right? And so technically, the information was not inaccurate, but there was a complete lack of context in terms of what happened, which we've since learned, which is that Stroud didn't want to take the test and ripped through it and just like, get me out of here. Like he hadn't eaten all day. And he was just like, and so it was like this terrible score. And then he took it again and he got a good score, which was also not part of so technically it was true, but it was delivered without all that stuff. And again, I don't know, I don't know the timing of everything, like when he took the other one or when it was reported, but still like it turned into this whole thing that was the problem. Was the initial report was at the very least extremely limited and lacking context. So yeah, that's a great example of it. So look, like I go back like to the Vrabel fired story, that we did. I mean, look, there was a lot of commentary given by people about people that was not very pleasant.
Yeah.
And we didn't use any of that, It's just like what can we all agree that happened, and then here's the result. Like was what we tried to do and get out all that commentary, I mean, there was commentary on like how people felt at certain times, but there was some very insulting things that never made that. And that's good. Like I think stuff like that should not make that. But like I said, like I've been a part of that too.
Alex on the YouTube chat says, Mike Keith threw me a tiny plastic football in 2001. Pretty sure that makes me an insider. If you guys need good scoops. Thank you, Alex. I'll keep you in mind.
Good deal.
615-737-1025. Our phone number. It's been the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. We'll be joined by Teron Davenport coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the matchup between the Titans and the New York Jets coming up on Sunday at Nissan Stadium. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
ESPN's Turon Davenport, Talking Titans, now on Robby and Rexrode on ESPN, 102.5 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week. Time to go to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in our friend Turon Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD, to the program. TD, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. What's going on, fellas?
Not a lot, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us. TD, a very interesting matchup coming up on Sunday for the Titans against the Jets, two teams that are 0-1 to start the season. So let's start on the Levis front. Obviously, boneheaded play last week. Interested to see how he responds to it. We were talking about this earlier. He's obviously somebody that wants to succeed so much and wants to do well. Do you think sometimes maybe he wants it a little too much, and that becomes a fault for him on the field on game day? Like, how do you overcome maybe being a little bit too high strung? Do you think that's something that can be coached out of him? Is that just the way he is, and you got to live with it if you're the Titans? How do you view that part of it with Will Levis?
Yeah, it's something where he has to stop pressing, and they have to get him to somehow weigh the pros and cons of a play before he tries to make it. And you saw that, right? You look at the interceptions. Okay, let's say you complete the pass. Just like Bill Belichick said, right? You complete the pass. Okay, you get 2 yards. Guess what you still got to do? Punt.
Yep.
Right? Worst case scenario, look what happens. You lose the game. So, those are things that he has to be able to do and do it quickly, because these decisions have to be made almost instantly. So that's really the main thing. And my take on it is this, right? Over time, right, even going back to Kentucky, he has this habit, right, of playing hero football, feeling like he has to do everything, right? And when you're in adverse situations, what happens? You resort back to your habits. And what happens with the habit is something that you develop over time, okay? And so now, and this is my thing to people who say automatically, hey, get rid of him, he can't be the guy. Well, you got to understand these habits that have developed over time are going to take time to be deprogrammed, and now you got to program new habits. So it's going to be a process.
Yeah, I mean, even in that play, like even if it's like even if you throw it away or whatever, so okay, so you saved whatever 6-7 yards and a sack. Also, you stop the clock instead of keeping it running, right? Like if you take a sack, the clock runs. Yeah, it's a question of but can you process that stuff in the moment and not do the hero ball? So TD, what is we've all talked about forever, right? I mean, all off season. This season is the Will Levis season. What do you think is, and I know it's different for different people and different situations, but what's the general, in your mind, time period to when you should know about a quarterback, if there's a game number or whatever it is?
I would say 18 to 20 games. That's usually, to me, when you should know. But like you said, it does change from person to person. I think the main thing is seeing flashes, seeing consistency, and not seeing the same mistake being made over and over again. And that is a little bit alarming about this failure to be able to slide. But you know what? A lot of young quarterbacks have had that.
TD, on the Skoronski front, obviously not a very good game from him from a pass blocking standpoint. What's your concern level with him? I know it's week one, but just based on everything we've seen from Skoronski to this point in his career, your concern level on him after 1 week.
Yeah, there should definitely be a level of concern, and it's not just physically. There's mental things going on. Like he's not, his eyes, he's not seeing things, and then the feet, and I think what ends up happening a lot of times to athletes is they struggle like this, and then it becomes mental. So Bill Callahan, he has to find that balance. He coaches hard, so he has to find that balance of being able to ride him a bit, but also at the same time boost him up and make sure that his confidence is there. This league is, next week you got Kenny Clark and the Packers, so it just continues to get harder and harder.
Yeah, no doubt. So with, like you said, I think that's a great point. With any of these guys, I mean, it's hard for it not to become mental. It's hard to totally avoid the discussion. And if you're a high pick, especially, then the discussion is higher volume and it comes faster. When you look at his struggles last week, TD, do you feel it's more, maybe there are some physical limitations with him that weren't, seen as much when he came out, or is it a technique failure thing where he's losing his head and reverting to bad habits that can actually be corrected?
Yeah, I think it's technique. And it's mainly the slow feet, right? Like he has to be able to speed that up. That's the main thing to me. But I mean, it's something that is going to come also with time because, and this isn't an excuse, okay? It's not an excuse. He has to play better without a doubt. But you got to remember, like he's dropped in between two guys he hasn't played with consistently also. So that's going to come as well. So it's just going to take some time for that to develop fully. But again, he has to play better.
TD, I was saying this earlier this week on the defensive side of things. Like Sweat is a guy that I already look at and say, man, I'm glad the Titans have him on their team because, man, he's a monster in week one.
Yeah.
That combination of Sweat and Simmons, after seeing it in action together for the first time in a game setting, what's your thought on just how dynamic those two can be together this year?
Yeah, man. Good old Meatloaf, man.
Yeah.
He got me cracking up when he said that's what he wanted. He answers to. But, yeah, the thing that excites me is I love bigger D tackles with footwork, and he's a former hooper, right? And he's a guy that not only wins with that bull rush, you saw that quick arm over move, and you see how he gets into the backfield. And I love what Amani Hooker said. He was like, man, a guy like that gets in the backfield and makes the running back have to go laterally and redirect, it makes my job easier. And he's right, because you look, the tackle for a loss that Roger McCreary had, all you had to do was be there and take out the trash, right? Because Sweat already placed the table for him, and Swift was easy picking because he had to, redirect. So I think when you have something like that, a guy that could not only win with his brute strength, but also his footwork and his technique, it's a dangerous situation, and I told him in the locker room, the same day I text you, Rexrode, I told him, I said, you remind me of Haloti Ngata. He said he hasn't seen him yet, but hopefully he does watch him because they're very similar players.
Yeah, no, that's a great comparison. So this defense goes from, overall that's a winning performance plus in week one. Obviously gave all kinds of trouble to an extremely talented rookie in his debut. And now you go to Aaron Rodgers. How different is like the defensive mindset and game plan when you now are looking at a guy who's seen everything, but also it's one game, but didn't look to me, TD, like he was the same Aaron Rodgers, really good at climbing the pocket, escaping, extending plays. What's the difference in plan and mindset there for the Titans?
Yeah, I think with this game, you still want to, show them one picture and switch the picture up and things like that. But I think it's really the focus has to be on like the defense down the middle. We just talked about Sweat, Jeffrey Simmons. These guys got to get that interior pressure. That's the worst thing for Aaron Rodgers. He hates to have to, have the pocket pushed back into his face. So you got to do that. And if you're not getting home, just like Denard Wilson said yesterday, right? If you're not going to get to the quarterback, get your hands up and become a pass defender. And that's a way to kind of develop some of these turnovers that they're thirsty to get, and with that quick passing game. So I think that's really the key. It is different in that, you don't have to have the same type of coordinated rush against Rodgers, you know what I mean, as you do against Caleb Williams, because, you look at just, he's not the same guy. I think that's the easiest way to put it. Like he doesn't make that, baseball turn out of the pocket and throw the ball 40 yards downfield on the money like he used to. It's not happening now.
TD, if Hopkins is full go on Sunday, what sort of a difference does that make in this offense, do you think, with Hopkins, Boyd, and Ridley together on the field, really for the first time in a game setting?
Yeah, I think it makes a big difference. I think he's going to be full go too. Like he hasn't showed up on the injury report. His knees are naked out there, right? No brace, no sleeve, nothing on there. So that's a good thing. And it's really good for Will Levis because we know that that's his guy, right? That's who he goes to, and it is also something to that calming presence that Hopkins has. It seems like that helps Levis also. Now this is just outside of the huddle looking in, but it just seems like that does help Levis. So yeah, overall, I think having him back and having those guys together, is definitely going to be good. Especially DJ Reed, Sauce Gardner. These are some good corners, right? So you need as much as you can to go against them.
TD.
What should the concern level be, TD?
Go ahead, Joe.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. What should the concern level be with the kicking game right now?
As far as like punt blocks or which.
Just everything. Yeah, special teams. Yeah, special teams. The whole thing.
Okay,
I mean, because I thought it was just a bad day. Obviously, the punt blocks.
Yeah. Yeah, the cover unit too. You had the 66-yard kick return. You can't have these types of things. So I think there definitely should be a high level of concern. I know Cole Anderson said that it was a team thing on the block, but that was on Jack Gibbons. Like Jack Gibbons took responsibility for it. Yeah, it's bad, man. It's bad, and you wonder about speeding up Stonehouse's punting. Delivery. I don't know if that's a big thing that they have to do, but yeah, they have to hit the go back to the drawing board and figure some things out.
TD, could you imagine trying to guard Devondre Sweat on the basketball court? You talk about being a hooper. Good gracious.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. You know what I would try to do? Slip the chair out from under him. Like let him lean on me a little bit and then just turn. But just make sure you're not there when he falls. You don't want to be underneath all that.
That just sounds like a disaster waiting to happen trying to guard that guy. TD, great stuff as always. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us this week and enjoy the game Sunday. We'll talk to you next week.
For sure. Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Ron Davenport, our guest on Robby and Rexrode, joins us every Friday morning at 8 o'clock. We'll continue to look ahead to the Titans and the Jets coming up next. We got Pigskin Pick'em coming up at 8:30 as well. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Check out Nashville's best deal this week. It's 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. 312 Pizza Company serves the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. Check them out at 371 Monroe Street in Germantown, or order takeout online at 312pizzacode.com. Head to thegamenashville.com/deals to get half off a $30 gift card to 312 Pizza Company while supplies last. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Got some tickets to give away to see Legends of Old School featuring Dougie Fresh, Slick Rick, Big Daddy Kane, and a whole lot more. Ascend Amphitheater coming up on Friday, October the 4th. Be caller number 3, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller 3 will win a pair of tickets to Legends of Old School. Appreciate TD for being with us in the last segment. Joe, we've spent so much time this week talking about the offense and the quarterback, and obviously that's the number one storyline for the Titans heading into the game. I will say, I'm very interested Sunday to see how does the Titans defense perform against Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall and that offense. It was a dominant performance for the defense in week 1. Can they replicate that in week 2? Now, I don't know that it's fair to expect them to hold the Jets to fewer than 150 yards like they did against Chicago last week. But if they come out and have another really good showing on the defensive side of the ball, I think you start to raise your eyebrows a little bit, Joe, and say, all right, this Titans defense looks like it could be for real. And how much of a help could that be to your young quarterback as the offense is trying to get things figured out as the season goes on here, for this defense to be a plus for this team and to be a major plus very quickly into the season?
Yeah, the offensive line didn't help the young quarterback, but defenses also help young quarterbacks. So it's a big – Titans want complete opposite of one side of the ball, and they want to replicate on the other side of the ball. Remember, though, that Caleb Williams, I think, missed a couple deep shots, and there was a drop TD pass.
Yep.
And so if the Titans' aggression leaves them exposed, as it apparently did a couple times last week, Aaron Rodgers is more likely, I would say, to make them pay for it. To me, it's you got to get home. With like TD said, like, you have to be so careful when you're rushing a player like Caleb Williams and that rush lane integrity and everything. And it's not the same thing with an Aaron Rodgers. I think you can. Again, maybe this is an overreaction to one game of him playing his first football in a year, but it does look like, and it kind of matches up with his age, that he's a little bit more of a sitting duck now. So you need to get home and you need to stop the run. Breece Hall is a very good player. And so are the Titans going to be a consistent run stopping team? That absolutely matters. Are they facing third and, are they putting the Jets in 3rd and 6 and 7, or is it 3rd and 3 and 4 on Sunday? I mean, it doesn't sound like a huge difference, but it is. Then you're in a lot more conflict and you're looking at 3rd and 3.
Right. And, we talked yesterday about the importance of stopping the run. Garrett Wilson obviously is a huge problem that you've got to deal with if you're the Titans defense. I'm interested to see what the approach is in terms of defending him. Do they do it basically the way they did it last week, where it's Snead's got one side, you got a Woozy on the other side, and you just kind of go from there? What does that look like? Does Snead at all travel with Garrett Wilson in this game? That to me is still fascinating looking at it. And again, you did bring up an important point. I mean, it is Rodgers' first time in over a year of playing football. So how much better does he look in week 2? How much different is it in week 2? And how much better is this offense? We would all agree that the Jets offense is in much better shape right now with Aaron Rodgers, even at age 40, than it was with Zach Wilson at any point last year leading this group. So does that start to show itself? And I'm still, I'm a big believer in this too. The Jets have been, the definition of dysfunction in the NFL over the last 15 years. It's what they've been. They're dysfunctional every year. I don't know that I believe that that's just changed all of a sudden with Aaron Rodgers being their quarterback. There's a lot of pressure on them heading into this game. If the Jets fall to 0-2, the sky is going to be falling in New York. So there's a lot of pressure on them to win. And look, they've got a lot of veteran guys. They should be able to handle that, but you never know. Teams respond to that really differently, and I'm interested to see what that looks like, particularly on the offensive side of the ball for the Jets this week.
Aaron Rodgers is a great player, all-time great quarterback. He's not the guy to solve dysfunction within an organization. I don't think he's quite the agent of function when an organization has dysfunction.
What are you talking about? He said last year you got to get the stuff that has nothing to do with football out of there.
That's right. We needed these distractions out of here. We're all looking for who did this. We're all looking for who did that. Yeah. No, it's look, you're right. Like the NFL media, if the Jets lose this game, it is just, I mean,
they're
can
gonna
you
get
imagine
crushed.
the Mad Dog Russo rants next week about that? Like this is supposed to be a given for them. Like, of course, you go to Nashville and you right the ship and you thump that team, which is going to be picking in the top 3 to 5 next year and picking their quarterback. Of course you do that, right? That is the prevailing dominant expectation in the league. So the pressure on them now, does that matter on the field Sunday? I don't know, but the pressure on them is immense, and they have been an absolute bleep show for a long time.
There's no doubt about it. And the first look with Rodgers last week, I would describe it this way. I thought the arm looked great from Rodgers last week. Like, the arm is what it is. Like, it doesn't look a whole lot different to me than what it's always looked like. He can make every throw, and if you leave guys open, he's going to hit them. Like, you're not going to see Aaron Rodgers miss too many passes. I do wonder, like, how much can you take advantage of what I would agree appeared to be more limited mobility from him last week. That's always been a big part of his game. Now, look, don't get twisted. He could sit there in the pocket and carve you up if you give him the chance to, but he's always been able to extend the play, keep the eyes downfield, make the throws that way. And if he's less equipped to do that now just because of the Achilles injury and the age that he is, you got to find a way to take advantage of that, move him off his spot if you're the Titans. And that is where, TD was talking about Sweat and the quick feed and what he put on display in week 1. I am really, can you live up to that challenge again? Like, part of being a good player in the NFL is doing it on a consistent basis. Can Simmons and Sweat really impact the game in terms of getting after Aaron Rodgers with interior pressure up the middle?
Well, and I think Simmons is,
for sure.
Is there more there from him? Can he have one of those games where you're like, oh, I think last week you certainly saw him at times. He made a difference, and those two together are just such a problem for an offensive line to figure out how to handle them both. But yeah, I'd like to see Simmons have a loud game here, and not. We've talked all week about Sweat, and is he Meatloaf? Is he Boba Sweat, which is still my choice?
I agree,
but I do like Meatloaf. The food, the nickname, not so much the artist. But we've been talking all week about Sweat and not that much about Simmons, other than Kaharski saying he was smiley, which I think is a little bit of an overstatement. But I do agree with Kaharski on let's see the great player in a game like this, because if you get those two in tandem and at their best, that's just going to be a problem for opponents consistently. And I think with Rodgers is that, again, if he's I'm with you, his arm looked great. He didn't look nearly as mobile. If he is that, then those two guys pressuring inside is going to be a big problem for him.
Kevin in Nashville says, what about Rodgers being more comfortable coming home to Nashville, sleeping in his own bed? Can't overrate that.
Well, that is very true. Is there a team retreat for the Jets? A ayahuasca-fueled retreat.
Guys, come on out.
Or after the game. Yeah.
Got a nice place for all of you.
So many caves.
Got another texter that says, how would New York react to relax from Aaron Rodgers? Probably not well. If they go to 0-2 and he gives the old relax speech, I don't know if that'll go over well.
Didn't he say? I thought he said something like that, but it was like last year when he was already hurt. I thought he said something like that.
Maybe he did. I don't know.
No, I don't know. He says a lot of things.
He does. We'll have the next edition of Pigskin Pick'em coming up next. Take your thoughts in the meantime. 615-737-1025. Our phone number 615-737-1025. Tune in to 93.3 Totally Hits Nashville tomorrow for MTSU football. Blue Raiders taking on Western Kentucky at Floyd Stadium. Pregame at 4:30, kickoff at 6. Coverage also available on the 93.3 FM Totally Hits Nashville app and at totallyhitsnashville.com. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Hey, Robbie Stanley here. Just because it's week 2 doesn't mean the season is over. You could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Lots of things on the table for you. Look, Team Malik here. Malik Willis, I think, is going to play on Sunday. And I'm going with the Packers, +3. Does it have anything to do with me being in attendance? Maybe so. But that's what I'm doing. You can do it too. Just visit FanDuel.com/Rob to make every moment more this season. Once again, that's FanDuel.com/Rob. FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Got a gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789.
Now, it's time for Pigskin Pick'em with Robby and Rexrode on ESPN, 1025 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week, time for Pigskin Pick'em here on Robby and Rexrode. A quick standings update in the competition. Joe Rexrode, 4-2 with his lock last week in week 2. A strong performance from Rexrode. Same with Nick Keyser, 4-2 with his lock as well. I was terrible. 2-4. No lock for Robbie Stanley last week, which means the overall standings, Joe Rexrode in first place, 7-5, 2-0 on his locks, 9 points. Nick Keyser, 6-6 overall, 2-0 on his locks, 8 points. Robbie Stanley, 5-7, 0-2 on locks, 5 points. Utter garbage from me the first 2 weeks of the competition. We'll see if we can improve as we move forward here. We begin with Vanderbilt going on the road to take on Georgia State. Vanderbilt 2-0, looking for 3-0. Joe, Vanderbilt a 10.5-point favorite in the competition. Your pick between Vanderbilt and Georgia State.
The half, I'm not going to lie. But also, I'm not going to lie and pretend I know a ton about Georgia State. I think the way Vanderbilt runs that offense and runs the football and then the improvements on defense, I think they're going to thump them. So give me Vanderbilt.
Rexrode going with Vandy. Nick Keyser, Vanderbilt, 10.5-point favorites on the road at Georgia State.
They'll be raising some canes down there in Georgia, fellas. You see what I did there? I don't know if anyone gets it.
Time for you to log off.
Yep.
I do.
The bad puns continue. But, yeah, give me the Commodores in this one. A good 3-0 start to their season seems appetizing to me.
Don't speak again. Diego Pavia is a dog until otherwise proven, and they get it done. They win by 20. Give me Vanderbilt minus the 10.5 against Georgia State. We move to Kent State, taking on Tennessee in Knoxville, a game in which Nick Keyser will be there and will give us a full report on Monday morning about the horse troughs. Nick Keyser, Tennessee's a 49.5-point favorite in this one against Kent State. Your pick between the Vols and the Golden Flashes.
I think they absolutely roll over them. Yeah, give it to me. I mean, that's a large favorite, but, I mean, I don't think they're going to hold back whatsoever. So, yeah, give me Tennessee this weekend.
I'm going Kent State. I think Tennessee wins by 49, so they don't cover the 49.5. I'll go Kent State plus 49.5. Joe Rexrode, Tennessee, Kent State.
I've thought about it exactly like you have, and that seems I hate the half there. But at the same time, like, this is the worst team in college football. This is the worst Division I team that exists in the land in Kent State. And so I think this game is going to be like 56-0 at halftime. And then, like, the backups will get another touchdown, and Kent State's backups will get one, and it'll end up 63-7. So give me the Vols.
So going with the Vols in that one. I think this might actually be a game. Heupel doesn't do this a lot, where he pulls guys pretty early. Typically doesn't do that, but Oklahoma's next week, so I think that might happen. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Jets taking on the Titans Sunday at Nissan Stadium, the home opener for the Tennessee Titans. The Jets are favored by 3.5 in this game. Give me the Jets in this one. I think the Jets will win by about a touchdown. I'm just heavily discouraged by what I saw from the Titans offense last week. I think the Jets defense, despite a not very good showing against San Francisco, will respond this week. I'll go with the Jets minus the 3.5. Joe Rexrode, Jets and Titans coming up at Nissan Stadium.
It's just another WHMR kind of week for me. Give me the Titans. I like the half, but you know what? Give me the Titans to win outright.
Ooh.
They are going to come out and turn some things around in front of the home fans, and they're going to look like a more functional football team against a team that can easily crumble given their history. So I think the Titans pull the upset altogether.
Guarantee question mark, Joe, for you? No
guarantee. No. I got a lock later.
That's fine. And look, I think the Jets defense is due to have a better game. So give me the Jets this week. And I think Aaron Rodgers also looks a lot better for the sake of Robbie Stanley's sanity as well. I'm just enjoying a decent quarterback right now. So yeah.
Well, I don't care if he looks good anymore.
I mean,
my
hey,
team.
Well, I know you like him, and you definitely don't want to cheer for Malik this weekend. That's for sure.
Robbie will be in his old home.
I guess so.
I will. We move to the individual portion of the program. Joe Rexrode, your first individual selection.
I'll start with my NFL pick for the week. Chargers at Panthers. The Panthers are getting 5 points. Now, I don't know that Harbaugh is going to have some amazing debut season, but I already like some of what I'm seeing. He's a very good coach. And the Panthers are cheeks, folks. So, yeah, give me the Chargers, and I'll give those 5 points.
So going with the Chargers, -5 against the Panthers. Nick Keyser, your first individual selection.
One longtime college quarterback is out because of an infection of a cut that he's got. Cam Rising is going to miss quite some time here. So give me Utah State to cover against Utah this weekend.
Well, what's the line?
Give us the line, Nick.
It is +17.5.
Are you sure? Because this got into a bit of an issue last week.
It's +17.5. You can go ahead and check. Go right now and go look on FanDuel.
All right. I'm going to have to start verifying.
Go ahead.
Keyser's lines. My first pick, it would be really kind of a shame of me if I didn't do this. This is my first trip to Lambeau. Give me the Green Bay Packers +3 and to win outright with Malik Willis as a starting quarterback against the Indianapolis Colts. As we all know, Joe, I have long been a big fan and a very staunch supporter of Malik Willis, and I'm very much looking forward to his dominant outburst of offensive production on Sunday. Matt LaFleur, great coach. Looking forward to that coming up as well. Give me the Packers +3 against the Indianapolis Colts.
I just really, really I need, your buddies are going with you. I need the video of you happily, drunkenly screaming from Lambeau on Sunday. Gotta have it.
Nick Keizer, your second individual selection.
I'm just waiting to see that video. But look, I'm going to take the Houston Texans -6.5 over the Chicago Bears this week. I think Caleb Williams gets humbled this weekend for the first time.
So it's -6.5 against the Bears. By the way, did I say that I was locking down Packers? Because I am.
Oh, look at you.
No, you did not. That's even better.
Wow.
I have to. Got to do it.
Add a couple spotted cows to the total.
That's
I love
right.
it.
Lock it down on the Packers. Joe Rexrode, your second individual selection.
So Boston College at Missouri.
Yep.
And I don't want to overreact to what's clearly a bad Florida State team getting completely thumped physically by Boston College. But you know what? Bill O'Brien can coach some ball, and he's getting 15.5 at Missouri. And I like Missouri. They got a good football team. They're a playoff contender, but I like that 15.5. Give me Boston College in those points.
So going Boston College plus 15.5 against Eli Drinkwitz and the Missouri Tigers. My second individual selection, give me the Wisconsin Badgers plus 16.5 against Alabama. I'll be in attendance for that one too. I do think Wisconsin's defense is good enough to grind this one out a little bit. Now their offense is atrocious, so it's going to have to be like, I don't know, 21-7, somewhere in that neighborhood. But I'll go Wisconsin plus the 16.5. Alabama will win, and they will probably win by double digits, but they do not cover the 16.5. Joe Rexrode, your final individual selection.
I love that you're putting your money where your weekend is.
That's
I
right.
love it. All right, my last one, Ole Miss going to Wake Forest, and Wake is getting 21.5. And again, that's a half point I don't love, just like with the Vols. But my God, Lane is going to put a number on these guys. He is getting style points all he can. Wake Forest is not good. Give me Ole Miss minus 21.5 and make it my lock.
Guarantee.
Locking down on Lane. Ole Miss minus 21.5 against Wake Forest. Nick Keizer, your final individual selection.
Robbie, I hope you did your research on this pick because I am going Roll Tops over the Blue Raiders. Western Kentucky is a 7.5 point favorite, and I think, not only do I think, I want to believe that this will be a smackdown in Murfreesboro, and I'm going to lock down on this game as well. TJ Finley and the Tops taking down the Blue Raiders. There you go.
Well, it's kind of an
I'm
amazing.
glad we got that game in here.
Yeah, it's an amazing rebound for them after they were just apparently, according to you, a pick 'em last week against Eastern Kentucky. So I'm glad they've improved so much in a week.
Hey, I already admitted to bad research on that end because I was trying to find something last week, and I apologize. I do it again.
By the way, real quick before you do your pick, did we ever get any apology or conversation about the whole uniform thing there? Did
Nothing else
Big Joe
happened.
get anything on the
No clarity?
No, I don't think
Okay.
so. No.
I want something. I want a resolution on this.
We need anonymous sources.
Walt
Rexrode,
Wells.
go write it. Go write it at the Athletic. Tulane taking on Oklahoma. There's a big game in Norman next week. Did not look very good last week, the Sooners. They're 13.5 point favorites against Tulane. Give me Tulane plus 13.5. Oklahoma's going to win, but I think the combination of the struggles that they have right now on the offensive side of the ball and maybe a little bit looking ahead to next week with Tennessee, I think they get the classic struggle win against Tulane. So give me Tulane plus the 13.5 against Joe, an Oklahoma team that I'm still not quite sure how good or not good they are.
I love that pick. Mensa's a really dynamic quarterback for Tulane, and I'm with you. No, offensively, did they struggle last week. So I like that one a lot.
Those are our picks. We'll take your picks as well for the weekend. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our final thoughts on the Titans and the Jets, the weekend of college football coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan today as the Sounds take on Memphis. Pre-game at 6:20, first pitch at 6:35. Coverage also available on the 94.9 The Fan app and at 949thefan.com. Sounds baseball presented by Twin Peaks, Family Leisure, 5 Points Roofing, and Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Got some tickets to give away to Legends of Old School. Those giving away some more of those tickets now. We did that just a few minutes ago. 615-737-1025. Caller number 3 is our phone number. Caller number 3 will win a pair of tickets to Legends of Old School coming up at Ascend Amphitheater on Friday, October the 4th. Joe, you got the Titans winning outright on Sunday against the Jets. A bounce-back performance from Will Levis and company. What do you make of this game? What's the key to that coming true and the Titans winning this game?
My reasoning on that is just that it's just amazing in this league every year how we think we know so many things about a team after one game. And so many of these teams are going to defy what they showed in week one. Titans may not. There are serious questions about the Titans, I acknowledge. But I just, I think that this is a huge week for Brian Callahan and his coaching staff in terms of, okay, we've done all this stuff, and now look at the film, and boy, there's a lot of ugly on that film. Why? And how can it be fixed? And how can, as he said, some of these guys who reverted on some things, how can you get them back to playing, with the proper technique? And then can you put together a plan too? Like Garski and I argued about the halftime adjustments, and I agree with what Brian Callahan said this week, which is it's constant adjustments. That's my whole thing. Like, you better be adjusting at all times. But the second half thing is crazy, like that it carried over for one game.
Yep.
So huge week for them, huge week for this offensive line. And obviously Will Levis, how will he respond? He's going to get, I think TD's about right. Like your guy, Jordan Love, Robby. I mean, basically he had like a game here or there, but it's about 20 games. It was basically all of last season when you went from to all of a sudden, oh my God, pay him. Yep. Right. So that's his, that was his third season in the NFL?
That was his fourth
season. Yeah, that's right. That was his fourth season in the NFL. So that's a totally different situation. But I agree in general with about the 20 game thing. That seems about right. He's going to get that time. But this game, he so badly needs to reverse some things quickly and restore confidence. I think in his own confidence, his coach's confidence, and his teammates' confidence in him. Like, it's not just us out here screaming about everything and fans and media. I mean, internally, you make plays like that, guys look at each other like, what the hell? There's a huge, huge week for him to get it back to, okay, talented young quarterback who's trying to make his way, as opposed to guy who last week validated a lot of really negative views about him around the league.
Yep, no doubt about it. And I will say too, when you have guys, there are going to be some guys that get open in this game. I don't care how good the defense is. When you've got Ridley, Hopkins, and Boyd, and an offensive guy like Callahan, there are going to be guys open at some point. Do you hit them? Like, are we talking again on Monday morning about Ridley wide open on the sideline and Levis airmailing one out of bounds? Are we talking about Hopkins cutting across the middle and Levis sailing one high that ends up intercepted? Like, it would be awesome for his confidence, and I think the confidence of the fan base, to go through a game where when the throws are there and when the protection holds up, and we'll see how well that happens. But when it does happen, make the plays that are available to you. I mean, that's the first step of being a good quarterback in this league. Yes, the great ones make exceptional plays, but can you take what the defense gives you? Can you make the plays that are available to you? If you can't do that, then you just have no chance in this league. So I'm interested to see if that looks different from Levis this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of different elements that have to go together, but he's going to have an opportunity to make some throws. He's going to have an opportunity to hit people. Does he hit them? He needs like a good throw, a nice little run with a slide early, get that stuff out of the way and kind of move on with his day.
Matthew in Nashville says, surprised none of you picked Memphis to upset Florida State or Boston College to hang around with Missouri. Well, one of us did pick Boston College.
I literally just picked Boston College.
We did not pick Memphis, though. Although, I will say, I think Florida State's like a 6.5 point favorite in that game. very interested to see the Memphis Florida State game. One of the more intriguing games of the weekend, I think.
I agree, and that definitely could have been a pick. I'm glad we got to mention it because that's a very interesting game. Robert says if Levis struggles, like I'd be making the same mistake. I believe Brian will bench him and start Mason. No, he will not. He at some point, if it's so bad week after week after week and they just can't get a win, okay, fine. But we are so far from that. This season, it's not just us saying it. It's internally. Everybody knows this season is finding out about Will Levis. You don't find out about him by immediately benching him for what you know is a solid backup quarterback in the NFL.
Top 3, top 5, top 10,
maybe the best. Maybe the best backup in the NFL, but still.
Malik Willis with a chance potentially to really kind of pole vault himself up those backup quarterback rankings this weekend.
Well, maybe Malik Willis is turning himself into we don't talk about him as a backup anymore after this weekend.
Maybe so. Maybe so. I'm still holding out hope. Jordan Love's going to walk out there on one leg. We'll see what happens on that front. The Tennessee game going to be interesting in terms of like how long did the guy stay? Does Nico stay in there? How long is James Pierce in there? Does it look like the Chattanooga game where it's just over from the jump and you get him out of there immediately? But I think a lot of eyes in Knoxville already on the matchup next weekend against Oklahoma. You would figure Tennessee going to go in tomorrow, handle business against a very bad Kent State team, as you've pointed out. And then you'll be talking about definitely a top 10 Tennessee team, and depending on how things go this weekend, maybe a top 5 Tennessee team going on the road, which, by the way, I looked yesterday, Joe. They're a 3.5-point favorite in Norman next weekend, taking on Oklahoma.
Okay.
At the moment.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, this is just a week of don't get anybody hurt and maybe get some good feel back in the passing game a little bit, maybe get some other guys involved. Like a Thornton, but it's very much name your score, get no one hurt, and gear up for Oklahoma. And like you said, that Oklahoma-Tulane game is one of the ones definitely to watch tomorrow. Certainly if you're a Vols fan. That'll be a lot more interesting than your team's game, I promise you.
I would say that's probably the case. And I'll tell you, NFL game, I'm really excited to see this weekend. Bengals and Chiefs. That's a pretty good week 2 matchup, the 3:25 game on CBS coming up on Sunday. Bengals, I mean, you would think it's going to be really difficult for them to go on the road and win in Arrowhead. And if you do that and you lose, you're falling into an 0-2 hole after crapping the bed against the Patriots last week.
The thing is, like when that, you look at that before the season and it's like, ooh, juicy matchup. I'm like, are we sure they aren't just going to get their doors blown off in this game?
I don't know.
I hope I'm wrong because I hope Burrow gets back to Burrow and they're good. I think it's better for the NFL, but they're one of those teams that did what we did the first look at them. Did that lie or not? Remember last year they were awful too in the opener against Pittsburgh. The problem is last year got wiped away with the injury, but I'm a little worried about Joe Burrow and whether he's gotten so banged up now that he's a diminished player.
Well, and they, Chase basically didn't practice all the training camp, got back out there like the last week, and he did play last week, and then he had 6 catches for 62 yards, but T. Higgins didn't play. And by the way, T. Higgins to this point has not practiced this week either, dealing with a hamstring injury. So this is the game where you would really need both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins if you're Cincinnati.
Yes, big time. But hopefully that's the game that we think it could be. I think actually Bears-Texans, that game interests me a lot.
Could be a lot of fun. Joe, you're going to have Kuharski in with you on Monday as I am traversing through Wisconsin. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend.
Yes, and I will pay a premium if you bring back some spotted cows. Okay. But don't tell the authorities.
We'll see what happens. Everybody have a great weekend. Lots of football to get to. Hope you enjoy it. Chasing Big Joe is coming up next. You're listening to 102.5, 106.3, The Game.